Hi, I'm George, the Weather Dad. Nancy the other day asked me a really good question, and that is, why has it been so windy during the winter and so far the spring months here in the Midwest? Well, Nancy, the simple answer is the placement of the jet stream. Here in the northern hemisphere, we deal with two jet streams, the subtropical jet stream and the polar jet stream. And this is a winter pattern where the polar jet stream is really quite a bit south, affecting us here across the country. This is a normal pattern where you have a ridge of high pressure along the west coast, keeping them reasonably quiet, and it dips down here in the central U.S., giving us some reasonably cold air. Now, if you've been watching the weather, we have not been that cold here in the Midwest, and on the other side of the country, where California is concerned, you know they've been experiencing record snowfall, and that's because the polar jet stream doesn't have this hump, but it's mainly going across the country in a zonal pattern. We call that zonal flow. So it's taking storm systems, slamming them into the west coast, dumping a lot of snow, and then shoots across the country. Now, when that happens, this system has access to some very cold air and some reasonably warm air along the Gulf Coast of Mexico. When you get that much of a temperature differential, you have spin, and the storm systems have a tendency to increase and thus produce a lot of wind. A good example of that will be April 5th. Here we have a developing storm system along the northern tier of states. You see the blue up there, that's snow, there's some very cold air, and on the other side of it we have a lot of warm air shooting up from the Gulf Coast. Again, when you get that much of a temperature differential, you have these systems really intensifying, thus a lot of wind. Another way to look at it is you have a valley here and a mountain ridge over here. Further apart, very slight slope. In the atmosphere, we have a developing low pressure system here and a very high pressure system here. Very steep slope, the stronger the winds. Right now, Nancy, it looks like spring is going to be rather windy here in the Midwest. Nancy, I hope that answers your question. I'm George, the Weather Dad.